Thank you. In this segment, we're going to talk about good finding. Now, you may never have heard that word before, but you will hear it a number of times in this segment. A good finder is someone who looks for what is good. And one of my favorite Jesuit rules is that they should seek and find God in all things. I mean, well, yeah, because we all find whatever we're looking for. If you're looking for trouble, you're going to find it. If you're looking for faults in people, oh, you will find them. If you're looking for what is good, you'll find good. But before I tell you more about good finding, I want to tell you that they made a study, a computerized study of the 100 most happy people they could find. I don't know how they discovered they were the most happy people, but they got 100 together, and they interviewed them at length. And they fed all the interview material into computers. And then they raced through the computers to try to find out what is the common denominator of happiness. Why are these people so happy? And they couldn't find out what they had in common. And so the first thing they came up with was most of them were from small towns. The population was under 70,000 in, I think, about 60% of the cases. So they thought, maybe a small town helps. And then they finally found something that all of them possessed. They were all good finders. And they had to make up that word to express that these people were looking for what was good in themselves, in other people, in all the situations of life. We call them optimists. They look for what is good, and they find it, too, because we all find whatever we're looking for. You remember the story of the two little boys. One was a hopeless optimist, and one was a hopeless pessimist. And they took the two little boys, they're twins. Two little twins is redundant, and I have a sign over my desk that said we should stamp out and abolish redundancy. But anyway, they took these boys to a child psychologist who stroked his long white beard. This is a story. And he said, you want to level them off? On the next birthday, give the little pessimist the best toys you can afford and give the optimist a box of manure. That'll level them off. So they did that. And they tiptoe down, the parents tiptoe down the corridor, and they look in, the little pessimist is looking at his brand new toys. And he's saying, aw, the paint will probably chip off this. I don't like that color. Oh, I know, our kid's got a better computer than calculator than this. The parents think, oh, he's going to be a pessimist all his life. And they look in, and the little optimist is throwing the manure up in the air and saying, you can't fool me. Where there's this much manure, there's got to be a pony. I remember I used that example in one of my longer talks one night, and some man said to me, where was the pony? Same to you, fella. Anyway, we all find whatever we're looking for, and that's the difference between an optimist and a pessimist. Two men looked out from prison bars. One saw mud and one saw stars. As you ramble through life, my brother, my sister, whatever be your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. So be a good finder. Look for what is good in yourself and in other people and in all the situations of life, and you have it made. But you have to set the dials of your mind to look for what is good. You have to adjust your sights to look for what is good. You know, earlier on, Loretta gave you, an exercise called the empty chair fantasy. And we did that one time in another workshop, and a girl wrote to me a year after it was over and said that was the turning point in my whole life. She said, why? Because she said, well, the grace of God had to have a lot to do with it. But she said, when I saw myself come out and sit in that empty chair, what I saw was a wimp. A little beaten puppy that was bracing for further beating and saying, go ahead, lay it on, what is it? And she said, and I felt so sorry for her. She was so pathetic. And she said, you know, your brochure advertised for emotionally stable people, but I've been under a psychiatrist all my life. And she said, I've been hospitalized, I've tried suicide, but never anything since that moment. She said, I saw my psychiatrist for 3 months after it was over, but she said, afterwards I said to him, I think we should terminate. I don't think I need you anymore. He said, I don't think you do either. I agree. And she said, it's been a year now, and I didn't want to write to you because, she said, I was afraid it was an emotional high, and I would wash off the cliff, but it hasn't been. It's true. When you start looking for what is good in yourself, you find it. And I felt so sorry for myself, and I knew who had beaten that little girl. I had. I administered all those beatings. I was her worst critic. Whenever she used words, I found that they were the wrong words. She used gestures. What did you make that stupid gesture for? Why did you do this? I was her main accuser. I was her main critic. And she said, when I looked at her face in the mirror, I didn't look for the beautiful features. I looked for the zit on her cheek. There it is, right there, and I got it. And she said, I hated myself for that. And so when we got to say one thing to our imagined selves as we sat in the empty chair, what I said to myself was, I am really sorry. I am very sorry for what I've done to you. Why I did it, I may never know. But the fact that I did it makes me feel very sorry and I'd like to apologize to you. And I want to make you a promise. From this day on, I am going to be your friend. I'm going to find out whatever is good in you and look for it and find it. And I'm going to try to understand whatever is weak in you. And I'm going to try to fulfill your needs because you are my friend. And she said, I've tried to live that. And she said, you know, you get in the rut of a habit. And you start to criticize yourself. And then the insight kicks back in and you say, wait a minute. No. I know what I'm doing now. And I'm a friend to myself. I look for what is good. I try to understand what is limited. I try to fulfill my needs. And she said, it's made all the difference. She said, by looking for what was good in myself. And as I told you earlier, St. Bernard of Clairvaux says, hey, don't worry about humility as long as you're magnifying the Lord, as Mary, the mother of Jesus, did. What you make much of is not your accomplishments. Look what I've accomplished. I showed them, didn't I? No, you don't do that. But you make much of the Lord. Isn't God good, what God has given me? And all these good things that are in me that maybe I've never even acknowledged. Maybe I've never used. Did you ever give something to a person who never used it? You want to say, hey, how come? How come you don't wear that bracelet or wear that perfume or smoke that cigar or wear that necktie that I gave you last Christmas? And God must be, I don't know, scratching his head looking at us saying, hey, don't you like the gifts that I gave you? Why don't you use them? Why don't you appreciate them? Because most of us are really self-critics. Maybe it's the 431 negative messages we got when we first came into this world, and we're just continuing to do that to ourselves. But most of us don't give ourselves any breaks. We don't look for what is good in ourselves, and as a result, we don't find it. Now, what a good finder does is look for what is good in yourself and try to find it. Try to understand what is limited. You don't deny it. You don't repress it. But you try to understand it. Maybe some ideas or attitudes I picked up along the way that are not good. I'm weak. Welcome to the original sin club, you know. We're all members. But I'm good. I'm a good person, and I make a lover's count of blessings that God has given me and magnify the Lord. That's the way to live. That's the way to be happy. But it's also true that a good finder looks for what is good in other people and finds what is good in other people. And I often have thought that there are two kinds of people. One who look for faults. And the minute someone disappears, they start rehearsing all the faults of this person. And I think, oh, wow, you saw all those faults in that short time. Wow, you must have been looking for them. But someone else would say, wasn't that person lovely? Didn't that person have this gift and that gift? Because we all find whatever we're looking for. This verse is attributed to a fellow named Roy Croft. Now, I'm not sure that he wrote it, but I'll attribute it to Roy Croft anyway. I love you not only for what you are, but what your love is helping me to make of myself. Remember that? I love you, down the line it says, I love you for looking past the weak and foolish things in me that you couldn't help but dimly see, and finding the good and beautiful belongings that no one else had looked quite far enough to find. You know, they say that love is blind, but love isn't blind. Love is super-sighted. Love looks beyond the weak and the foolish things that are part of the externals of a person and finds the good and beautiful belongings that no one else had ever looked quite far enough to find. Oh, wow. I love you for that reason. You found what was good in me and you brought it into light. You look beyond the weak and the foolish things and you found those beautiful things. Thank you very much. I'll always love you for that. I remember, do you know the blind black pianist Ray Charles? He's blind, and he said on an interview, and I heard this interview, so I know he definitely said this. He was asked, is it true, did you really say this, that if God offered you your sight back, you would not take it? And he said, yes, I did say that. He said, do you feel that way now? And he said, yes, I do feel that way now. He said, would you explain that to us? And he said, yes, of course. He said, you know, when my little children crawl up in my lap and they put their little arms around my neck, I can't see them. But if I could see them, I would probably say, oh, you got dirt on your hands. Go wash your hands. Oh, come on. Do this, do that. But I don't see them. All I know is that there's a beautiful person, little person there with his arms around my neck expressing love, and I feel good about that. And then he added, you know, he said, it's true that a lot of beautiful people aren't packaged very beautifully. But if you look beyond what you see externally, you'll find a very beautiful person. I remember one time my mother died in a nursing home in Chicago, and the women in her wing used to park their wheelchairs out in the corridor. And as you went by, oh, Father, Father, and you had to deftly touch their hand and pull your hand away in a hurry, or you'd pull a wheelchair into your mother's room. And I went back to school, and I used to get very discouraged because a lot of these people were senile. They really did not know where the ball game was at. And one time, a nurse said to me, Father, remember that under each of these senile old women is a beautiful young woman. Yeah. That's true. That you see a whole life history. You know, whenever I pass a house, an old house, I always think of that, all the history that's taken place in there, all the people that have loved in there and been born in there and died there. Oh, that's magnificent. And people are like that. If you're a good finder, and a good finder looks for what is good in other people. And especially in a community of priests such as I live in, the good finders just stand out, just magnificent. They take the nicest interpretation. They find the deep goodness that is in people. Oh, he didn't mean that. He always chooses the wrong words, but he's got a good heart. They find this goodness in people. And there are others that they find everything to worry about, everything to be fret about. They find what's bad in the whole situation, and they don't look for what is good. Now, the last thing a good finder does, and besides looking for what is good in self, and where all love must begin, and in others, is to look for all the good in all the situations of life. You say, whoa, that's a big order, isn't it? But it's going to make you happy if you look for the hand of God in all the situations of life. You know, I once told this story. It's a true story, and somebody who's sitting in the wings of the stage, and later we'll give you an exercise in this, said, I don't think that's true. And I said, it is true. James Whistler wanted to be an army man, and he got an appointment to West Point. And he thought, oh, wow, I got into West Point. And he flunked biology. And they drummed him out of the Corps. And he went home, and he was, I'm not going to be an army man. He wanted to be a general. And so they told him that he should take up painting as therapy. So one day a model was supposed to come to his house and pose, and she didn't show up. So his mother said, James, I'll pose for you. He's all right, Ma, you stand there. So she stood, you know the story, huh? And she stood there and she said, James, how long do I have to stand here? He said, geez, Ma, about 3 or 4 hours. Oh, I can't stand here for 3 or 4 hours. He said, well, then sit down. So wait till I get a rocker. And she got a rocker. You know Whistler's famous painting. Huh? Whistler's famous painting was his mother sitting in a rocking chair. God closes one door, you look for the good. He opens another. And James Whistler became one of our great painters. But I got to tell you a story that's closer to home of a lady who was arrested, a friend of mine. And she's a mother of 7 children, and her husband worked for us at Loyola University. And a big policeman stalked into a department store after and said, "Is that your vehicle out there, ma'am?" And she said, "Yes, yes, why? Did someone hit it?" "No, I'm giving you a citation." She said, "For what?" He said, "You made a left turn back at this corner, and there's no left turn there between 2 and 3 p.m. "Oh," she said, "tell me you're kidding." He said, "Don't sass me, ma'am, or I'll arrest you." Honest to God, this is the truth, he arrested her. He handcuffed her. He's a big fellow, and she's a little lady. He handcuffed her. He called for backup help. And when he whipped her arm around to cuff her, it hit him, and he said, "That is striking an officer, ma'am." And he wrote that down. They strip searched her when they got her to the jail. Honest to God, this is all true. They fingerprinted her, and they put her in a jail cell. And I said to a lawyer friend of mine, I told him what happened. He said, "Does she have a lawyer? There's $1 million written on this case." And I said, "I don't know if she even wants to sue." So when I saw her, I said, Kay, did that really happen to you?" He said, "Yes." And it was so beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. I said, "Really?" She said, "Oh, yes." She said, "I kept telling those officers, the next Passion Week, I'll know how Jesus felt." To be innocently arrested, accused, and so forth. And she said, I kept thanking them. They kept saying, "We're only doing our duty, ma'am." And I said, "I know, but I want to thank you." And I said, "What about that officer who arrested you?" And she said, "Oh, the poor boy overreacted. He was looking for a mother." And I said, "How did you know he was looking for a mother, Kay?" And she said, "Because he kept calling me ma'am, and once he slipped and said mom." And I said, "Okay, we're going to canonize you when you die." You're a real good finder, looking for what is good in yourself and in others and in all the situations of life. And if you do, you'll be a happy person. Here's Loretta to exercise you.
So the secret to good finding is to become a good finder of yourself first, I hear. So that's what we're going to do, is try and look within ourselves first to find what's good there, as the poem says. Look beyond all the other things that we can easily say and see about ourselves and say, "Hey, what's good about me?" And even harder than that for some of you might be to actually tell all the rest of us what's good about you. So let me gather up all my courage and let go of all my embarrassment and tell you some of the things that I think are good about me. I think that I am a non-threatening person. I didn't know that myself until people told me that sometimes it's very easy to work with me or be with me or relate to me because I'm non-threatening. I seem to say, "It's okay, whoever you want to be, you can be." That's just a quality, apparently, that I have about myself. I think I have a good sense of humor, but not everybody else that I know thinks it's a good sense of humor. It's a very dry sense of humor, so you have to get the combination to the lock besides the line. I think there's a gentleness about me that's not always there, but when it's there, it's very true. There's a gentleness there. I know that I'm a generous person. I enjoy the things of life, but I have no qualms about handing it off to the next person if the next person needs that. Could be growing up in a big family, you learn that whether you like to learn that virtue or not, but I am a generous person. And although I have a great deal of shyness about me, I think I'm also a friendly person because I oftentimes presume that everybody else is that shy too. So those are some of the things that was hard for me to say, but I hope it's a challenge enough for you to think of at least one thing, and we'll start with Laura, one thing that you know is good about you and you'd like to tell us about it.
One thing I would say would be flexibility and reliability. I think I'm somebody that people can rely on me, and I'm flexible. I'm not set in one way. I can change my mind, and I can work around things when things happen.
That's a great combination, too. Thank you. Good.
Laura, we must have been consulting in our minds because flexibility came to my mind also. I think I'm a real flexible person and also a sincere person. I think I'll tell you what I think without trying to hurt your feelings, but I won't lie to you if I don't have to.
Good, good, very nice.
Just one thing.
Oh, go on. Louise, as much as you can.
Well, I think God made me as very creative, and I've been always joyful and enjoy other people. And I love parties, and I think I'm a good listener because people come, and they tell me that. So I've enjoyed life.
Yes, wonderful. I bet it's been wonderful to be you.
One of the things that I think is good about me is that I always, whenever I'm at a party or something where there's someone standing to the side that doesn't know anyone yet, I'll come up and say, "Hey, how you doing?" and get them talking and get them to know people
Oh,
and make them comfortable.
good
So,
for
and
you.
that's
Thank
my
you.
my way of showing I care. So.
I think that I'm also a very good listener and a very compassionate person when I do my listening.
Compassionate. Thank you. That's nice.
I have a good sense of humor, I think, which has helped me many times in tight situations. And I think I am basically a gentle person.
Good.
I think that I'm a sincere and caring person.
It shows, too. Thank you.
I see myself as a very nurturing person towards others. And what I'm learning at this later stage in my life is that I deserve some of that nurturing too. And so I'm beginning to nurture that little child in me that heard all those 400 and somewhat numbers of negative messages. And now the focus is on kind of backwards. Finally being able to say that I too deserve the nurturing that I give to others.
If you've been such a good nurturer of others, too, I imagine you will be a good nurturer for yourself.
And I'm beginning to enjoy nurturing myself.
Good.
As I travel down this journey of life, I think God has graced me with the ability to see goodness in others through some of the people that I've been exposed to. And also, I'm a very sincere person, and when I see an injustice, sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I will speak it.
It's hard, though, huh?
To speak it?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes. Good. I'm glad you do. Or I'm sure we're all glad you do.
I thoroughly enjoy people in life. I love life and people. I'm not as good as you. I tell you kind of what I think, and I'm not too tactful about it, but I love you anyway. And I'm a good listener, and I have a great heart to love. And I think that people know that.
I think you're as good as the rest of us. You just have a different way of being good.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's a good sense of humor, too.
I think that's what I was going to say. I think I have a good sense of humor, and a lot of what you said is a lot the way I am. I don't get too angry very often. I have a good sense of patience, and maybe I need to stretch more so I'll get angry more often.
Stick to the good fighting here. Okay, thanks.
I think probably one of my gifts, which I didn't recognize as a gift until several people told me that, and professors in college that became friends with me, they commented on my openness and my ability to be honest with people and with myself.
Wonderful.
I have a great deal of empathy toward other people, and I think I'm tolerant of differences in people and other people's faults, maybe because I've had so many of my own and work on my own. I'm very forgiving when if there is any hurt, it's easy to let go of.
Do you know what I want to say in response? When you said I'm empathetic with people, maybe because I've had so many faults, I think, no, we've all had that many faults. I don't think you've had more than us. I do think you probably have a gift of empathy. It even sounds so in your voice, that's a special gift that you have. like each one of these special gifts, and you know, as you hear them, the richness of putting all these gifts together is just gorgeous. So you're the gift of empathy for all of us.
I think that I'm a nurturing person. I think my daughters would say that. And I am forgiving and do not hold grudges. And I'd like to share something about someone finding good. My little granddaughter taught me a real good lesson one day. She was about 6, and we had stopped for a traffic light, and this terrible-looking human being walked across the street, and I said, "Oh, look at that woman." And she said, "Well, Grandma, that doesn't mean she's not a nice person." I felt about that big. And I have thought of that many times.
Good. That was a gift in itself, just to hear that.
The first thing that comes to mind that I'm good at is commitment. I'd say the second is probably learning. I'm very open to learning and very anxious to learn. And because of the second, probably I think I'm a very good teacher, and particularly in certain areas that have come late in life as scripture study. Finally, although my counterpart on my left stole a little bit of this, I'm discovering a latent, wonderful skill of being a grandparent.
Oh, great, great. Life goes on.
I find it very hard to sit here with this microphone, but I think what I want to say is I feel it's a blessing that people seem to be able to come to me, or for me to have the feeling that they need someone. And I know it comes from the Lord that I need to go, or He needs to bring the people to me, and whatever He wants me to do, for me to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I consider myself a caring person, a committed person, and very understanding and empathetic.
Thank you. That's a nice gift.
I consider myself a loving person because I love people, and I'm always looking for some good in everybody. When I look out, I always see the beautiful.
Good.
I feel like I'm a mothering type person. I like to listen to others' needs, and if I can help them in any way, I try to help them. I also feel like I'm a task completer, if that is a section there. I like to do things, and I like to finish them.
Good. I'm glad someone has that talent.
I wish I had that one. I think that I'm a gentle person and a caring, and really always look for the good in someone else and make excuses for someone's bad behavior, whether that something was wrong in their lives that caused that. And I just love everyone and try to be friendly too.
I'm a very loving person. I consider everyone my brother or sister, all children of God.
I have been told that I am kind and gentle, and I know that I'm nurturing.
You recognize that in you, huh? Good.
I feel very lucky because I realize now that God has given me a real gift of being a teacher. And I'm getting to teach again now, and it's a wonderful part of my life, and I feel like I'm a very caring teacher, and I get very involved with my students, and it's just a very happy part of my life.
Wonderful.
I've had people tell me that I'm an optimist and that they like being around me for that reason. Also, I feel like I'm a peacemaker, and I usually feel like I can help reconcile others. Most of all, this is hard to say, but I feel like I'm a humble person.
Good.
Because I can say truly the Lord has done good things for me.
Good, good, thank you.
I think I am an honest person, and through my faith and love of God, I accept the hard realities of life with a sense of humor and a sense of hope.
Wonderful.
I consider myself an honest and loyal and sincere person.
I think I'm kind and gentle. I think I'm a good listener and one that has been true to commitments and responsibilities in life.
I think I'm a generous and kind person. I'm a committed person. You can depend on me. And I hope to be an optimist and a good finder.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And I hope that I hope you individually enjoyed being able to say out loud in the midst of everyone here something really good about yourself, and know that that's a praise of God when we say it. And that you also enjoyed the tremendous richness of God's giftedness. We just scratched the surface of all that's in this room. And that you take that as an example of if we want to be good finders of other people, we must start with ourselves. And when we find that in there, we realize the goodness of God, and then we're able to see good in all kinds of other people at other times. In our next segment, we're going to deal with the idea of growth, but take a look at growth as the focus rather than looking at perfection. Okay? We'll see you soon. Thank you.